Alright guys, so today's the Captain Marvel day. I'm about to go head into the theater, go see it in IMAX. Of course, I do have my Marvel Studios More Than a Fan t-shirt. And if I'm being honest with you guys, I'm not all that excited for Captain Marvel. The trailers just did nothing for me. Um, I just found them a bit generic and they were just kind of lame. But it's set up for Avengers Endgame, and I know that the end credit scene is gonna have to do something with Endgame. So I'm more excited for the end credit scene than for the actual movie itself. But it's an MCU movie, so yeah, I have to watch it opening day, and let's head in. Well, here we go in.
One small donation can help a tail to keep wagging, a nose to keep sniffing, a heart to keep beating.
Alright guys, so I did go see Captain Marvel in IMAX. Of course, after the review for the movie itself, I'll be talking about the IMAX experience. So yeah, I got the Marvel Studios, the first 10 years shirt on. I'm gonna start using the shirt for every MCU video. Every MCU review and movie day, you guys get the point. So anyways, let's talk about Captain Marvel. Don't worry, this is a spoiler-free review. So of course, before I get talking about my opinion about the movie itself, let's talk a little bit about the story. It's an origin story about Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, where she gets taken to this planet where she becomes a Kree, which Krees are basically warriors that go after these these alien creatures named Skrulls. Now Skrulls, they could shapeshift and transform into other people. So the Skrulls basically go after Carol while Carol gets embarked to this journey down here on Earth. So that's as far as I'm gonna go with story details. But anyways, there is a lot of positive things that I could say about this movie. But at the same time, there are some major problems when it comes to the telling of the origin story of Captain Marvel, who, by the way, is supposed to be a huge deal. Captain Marvel is supposed to be a huge deal character because, she's going to be one of the biggest parts of Avengers Endgame. And they really do kind of tease how big her character could possibly get in this movie. But, I think that first off, the first mistake here was the way they started the movie. The start to the movie with Carol Danvers as of her character is already a big deal. Like, they just try so hard to make her character the next big thing in the MCU. They try way too hard to make her the next Tony Stark, the next Thor, the next Steve Rogers. You get the point. And the thing is that, but when the first Iron Man movie started, you didn't feel as if Tony Stark was, one of the biggest things in this MCU until the end of that movie. And the same for Steve Rogers. He progressively just builds up his character in each movie, and that's something that I really like about those Captain America movies. Not just that the movies get better, but of course the character of Captain America gets better. But here with this movie, the movie just starts off and she's already supposed to be this big character that we're already supposed to be invested in. We're already supposed to care for her. And see, I really think that, you must start off small in the beginning of the movie and progressively throughout the movie build up her character, build her up to be the big character that you want her to be, and actually make it feel earned rather than just throwing it out there in the very, very beginning of the movie. Now, Brie Larson, despite what you guys might think of her because of her comments on press tours for this movie, I really thought she was really good as Carol Danvers. I know a lot of people have been complaining about her acting from the trailers, and yeah, there are some lines, some delivery of lines in this movie where they could come off as boring or just wooden. But there are a lot of scenes where Brie Larson could actually be charismatic. she could be a lot of fun in this movie. And I thought she was not a perfect Captain Marvel, but she was definitely a really good Captain Marvel. Now, Samuel L. Jackson really did an awesome job here. And he also they also put some de-aging effects on his face to make him look a few years younger. And let me just say that those effects they're awesome. This is some next level shit. And it's some of the best effects that they've used in the MCU so far. So yeah. And I think that one of the show stealers about this movie, aside from Goose the Cat was actually a really fun addition to this movie. But the real show stealer here, when it comes to performances, was Ben Mendelsohn. And Ben Mendelsohn is that one actor, and no matter what he's in, he could always be one of the best aspects about that movie. And I think that he is one of the best parts about this movie. And it's funny because the directors of this movie actually, they worked with Ben Mendelsohn in the past with a smaller movie that you guys probably never heard of, Mississippi Grind, which I actually just watched for the first time the other day on Netflix. Decent movie. It kind of has some of the same problems, same direction problems that this movie has, which we'll get to in a second. But Ben Mendelsohn's in that movie, and he's definitely one of the best parts about that movie. So it's crazy how good that guy could be. Clark Gregg as Agent Coulson, he just felt quite wasted in the movie. It was almost pointless to bring back his character in this movie, seeing that he really kind of did nothing to contribute to the story of this movie. But, he was fine. He was there. It was okay. Now, the direction of this movie. The direction of this movie is fine. I totally see where they wanted to go. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it just doesn't work. I just found that the direction of this movie was actually really wonky. And, it's just a rocky road, especially the first 25 minutes of this thing. The first 25 minutes of this movie are honestly not all that great. Seriously, I didn't really know what was going on for the first 25 minutes. And it also kind of seemed like they had no idea what they were doing either. And a lot of this has to do because of the directing. So just be aware that when you watch this movie, the first 25 minutes are just a little weird, but it does pick up after that. The writing itself isn't half too bad. There's a lot of things, aside from the first 25 minutes of the movie, where some things, actually feel a tad more different from the standard MCU movie, which is something that I really dug because, again, sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't, but they were trying to approach a different style, which is something that I actually kind of liked. But the movie just has a lack of perception from an origin story. I just didn't feel like her story was as well fleshed out as it could have been. I mean, let's take, for example, actually no, it is the best standalone MCU movie in my opinion, Black Panther. If you guys seen my review for that movie or my recent Oscar showcase movie where I saw that movie again in theaters because it was nominated for Best Picture, you guys know how much I love Black Panther. And one of the best things about Black Panther is where they took the whole story, they took the characters, they took the background information, they took everything, all of that was fleshed out to an extent where when that movie ended, I was on board with everything that movie had to offer. And I just cannot say the same for Captain Marvel because I don't feel like they extended or that they fleshed out everything in this movie. And by the end of the movie, I mainly just cared for the main characters and some of the supporting characters, but just everything else, I was just like, again, it was just there. It was just there. Now, this is more in the side of the first Thor movie, although I will say this is so much better than the first Thor movie because I think that the first Thor movie is the worst movie in the MCU. But Captain Marvel feels more like a Phase 1 movie. When the MCU was starting off and they didn't really know where to go with the MCU, that's what this movie kind of feels like. Luckily, the movie is saved by its writing. It's just as fun as I could get. Some good characters with some good actors taking on them. A clever take on the story, which, by the way, is kind of a mystery story. which is something that, it's a nice touch. I really like that about the movie. And some great action scenes, despite the VFX special effects just being just a little weak. But overall, it's still a good movie. It's definitely not as bad as the first movie, but it's definitely not one of Marvel's best works. But with that being said, it's one of the weaker Marvel movies, of course. But this is a movie that I would recommend watching on a matinee/discount day. And with that being said, I'm gonna give Captain Marvel a B. Now the IMAX, this is a good use of IMAX. I wouldn't say it's some of the best IMAX that I've ever seen, but the IMAX experience here was good enough. Marvel does the same thing that they always do with their movies when they release them in IMAX. They, open up the aspect ratio so I could fill up the whole screen, and the sound detail, everything. It was all good in IMAX. Hopefully, I get to see this movie again in Dolby next week to see how that compares to the IMAX experience. Plus that, and I kind of want to rewatch the movie to see if hopefully I could like it better a second time. But again, you'll never know. But yeah, that's what I thought about Captain Marvel. I'm curious to know what you guys thought about the movie itself. Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.